Airports are places where thousands of strangers cross paths every day. Everyone has a story. Everyone is in a rush, and most of us never notice the silent battles happening around us. But on this particular day, one entitled mother thought her. Privilege gave her the right to dictate where another passenger should sit. She chose the wrong target, a black woman who had simply boarded her flight like everyone else. What happened next shook the entire airport. By the end, even the pilot himself had to step in, and his words left everyone speechless. Stay with me because this story isn't just about one confrontation. It's about racism, entitlement, courage, and the incredible power of standing up for what's right. The setup. Boarding the plane. The gate was crowded, passengers tired and impatient as boarding began. Among them was Alicia, a hard-working black woman in her early 30s, traveling for a long-awaited business opportunity. This trip meant everything to her. She'd worked years to finally get to this point. She clutched her boarding pass, found her seat near the window, and finally allowed herself to relax. She had no idea what storm was about to come. Just a few minutes later, a woman entered with her teenage daughter. The woman carried herself with an air of superiority, designer bag, impatient sighs, and the kind of expression that made it clear she believed the world revolved around her. Let's call her Karen. As Karen reached Alicia's row, her eyes narrowed. Karen. "Excuse me. You're in my daughter's seat." Alicia. "I'm sorry. No. This is 14A. It's right here on my boarding pass." Karen glanced at the ticket in Alicia's hand, but smirked dismissively. Karen. "Well, my daughter doesn't like the middle seat. She needs the window. You'll have to move." The daughter, clearly embarrassed, whispered, "Mom, it's fine. I'll sit in the middle." But Karen waved her off. Karen. "No, sweetheart, you shouldn't have to suffer. She can move." It's the polite thing to do. The entitlement. Now, many passengers overheard this exchange. Some shifted uncomfortably in their seats, while others pretended not to notice. But Alicia? She took a deep breath. Alicia. "Ma'am, I paid for this seat. I'm not moving." Karen's voice grew louder. Karen. "Look, I don't think you understand. My daughter deserves the window. You can just take the middle seat instead. Or better yet, maybe you should let her sit here while you take one in the back." The venom in her tone wasn't just about a seat. It was about power, control, superiority. And then she said the words that froze the air around them. Karen. "People like you should be more accommodating. Don't make a scene." Everyone knew exactly what she meant by people like you. The rising tension. The cabin went silent. Some passengers looked away, unwilling to get involved. Others looked at Alicia, silently urging her to comply just to avoid drama. But Alicia didn't back down. Her voice was steady. Alicia. "I'm not moving. I booked this seat fair and square. Your daughter can sit where she's assigned just like everyone else." Karen scoffed and dramatically waved down a flight attendant. Karen. "Excuse me. We have a problem here. This woman refuses to give up her seat for my daughter." The flight attendant arrived, clearly uncomfortable. She checked both boarding passes and confirmed the truth. "Ma'am, the seat is hers. Your daughter has the middle seat. There's nothing I can do." But Karen wasn't done. Karen. "Are you really going to let her be so selfish? My daughter deserves better treatment than this." Once again, her eyes darted at Alicia in a way that dripped with prejudice. The turning point. The standoff was escalating, voices rising, passengers whispered, phones began to record, and then the captain himself emerged from the cockpit. A tall man with calm authority, his presence immediately commanded respect. He approached the row, looked at the scene, and spoke evenly. Pilot. "Is there a problem here?" Karen seized the moment. Karen. "Yes, finally." "Captain, my daughter needs this window seat. This woman is refusing to move. It's ridiculous. Don't you think she should be more considerate?" The pilot paused. He looked at Alicia, then at the daughter, who was now shrinking in embarrassment. Finally, his gaze landed on Karen, and with absolute calm, he said words no one expected. "Pilot, ma'am, the only person being inconsiderate here is you." The pilot's powerful response. The cabin went silent again, but this time, all eyes were locked on the captain. "Pilot, every passenger on this flight deserves the same respect. This woman paid for her seat, just like you did. She doesn't owe you or your daughter anything. What you're asking is not kindness, it's entitlement." Karen's face turned red. "Pilot, and let me be very clear. Comments like people like you have no place on my aircraft. Discrimination, whether subtle or blatant, will not be tolerated." He then turned to Alicia. "Pilot, ma'am, you stay right where you are. You have every right to this seat." And then to Karen. "Pilot, if you cannot respect the seating arrangements and your fellow passengers, you and your daughter are welcome to deplane. I will not allow this flight to continue with hostility on board." The shocking outcome. Karen's mouth dropped open. She sputtered, trying to argue, but the weight of the entire cabin's eyes on her silenced the fight. Even her daughter tugged at her sleeve, whispering, "Mom, just stop!" The pilot stood firm, arms crossed, waiting. Finally, Karen muttered something under her breath and sank into the middle seat, fuming in silence. The pilot gave Alicia a reassuring nod before returning to the cockpit. And as he walked away, the entire cabin broke into quiet applause. The lesson. Why this story matters. That day wasn't just about a seat on a plane. It was about the bigger picture. How often do we see injustice, yet choose silence because it's easier? How often do people in positions of privilege use it to belittle others, expecting compliance? But here's the truth. Racism and entitlement thrive in silence. They grow when people look away, when no one speaks up. What made this story powerful wasn't just Alicia's courage to say no. It was the fact that the pilot, someone with authority, used his voice to affirm her worth and call out prejudice directly. Because sometimes all it takes is one person in power to shift the entire. Emotional closing. Imagine being Alicia. Years of working hard, fighting stereotypes, proving your value, only to be reduced in seconds by a stranger's arrogance. And imagine being Karen's daughter, watching her mother's behavior, learning from example. That moment could shape her entire view on empathy, respect, and equality. But most importantly, imagine being one of the silent passengers, watching, recording, listening. This story forces us to ask ourselves, what would I have done? Would I have spoken up? Or would I have stayed silent, hoping it would all blow over? Final words, the takeaway. Racism isn't always loud. Sometimes it hides behind polite requests or entitled demands. Sometimes it whispers through phrases like, "people like you." But silence in those moments can be just as harmful as the words themselves. The pilot's response was powerful because it sent a message that echoed beyond that flight. Respect is not optional. Equality is not negotiable. And no one, absolutely no one, has the right to treat another human being as less. So the next time you witness entitlement, prejudice, or injustice, remember this story. And remember that silence only helps the oppressor. Stand up. Speak out. Be the voice that says, "Not today, not here." Because in the end, the real power lies not in privilege, but in the courage to do what's right.